Hey guys, it's good to be here. I know I know you're ready for lunch, so I'll give you a quick update on the Africa Fund. My name's Erik Renander, and I'm the portfolio manager. And I want to start by saying, when we're constructing the portfolio, our goal is to try and deliver a double-digit return with low volatility and low correlation to the rest of the markets. And 2017, we did a pretty good job of achieving those goals. I want to say, so return was 9.5%, so very close to double-digit return. We beat our index by almost 3%, and we beat the MSCI World Index as well. In addition, the volatility was low, and the correlation, it's maybe hard to read, but the correlation to the index was 0, and the correlation to the MSCI World Index was very low, 0.2%. So just to say, very good year, achieved the three goals they were trying to do. But that was last year, right? So let me just finish. The contributors to the fund, top performer was Naspers, the technology stock in South Africa. We came in and bought Nigerian banks at very depressed levels. That did well. We've had a position in big mining companies since 2016, continued to do well. El Saudi has been a very good performing company in Egypt, builds power stations, electrical transmission lines, benefiting from the build-out of power in Africa. And then we also saw an opportunity. It is the Africa Opportunities Fund. We saw an opportunity in July to start buying African government bonds that were yielding over 20%. So we bought a diversified portfolio, Nigeria, Egypt, Ghana, and Zambia, with about 20% yield. Okay, like I was saying, last year was good, but we're focused on how do we do it again. Starts with very good research, good idiosyncratic ideas. This means trying to find stocks that we think can work no matter what happens. So interest rates go up, they go down. Let's find good stocks in Egypt, Nigeria, Kenya, South Africa that we think can go up a lot. Attractive valuations. It really helps to have very low valuations, so there's a lot of upside. Gives you a nice cushion if things are difficult, and if things go well, you can make a lot of money. So the average PE on the portfolio is 11 times, so it's quite attractive. And that means there's quite a few stocks in there that are on 6, 7 times. You know, some more, but the average is 11. Lots of yield, okay? So this bond portfolio I was telling you about, the bonds have performed well, so the yields now are 16%. But we have about 33% of the fund in a portfolio earning 16%. So you can kind of do the math. A third of 16 is kind of 5%. So, you know, a lot of things can happen with currencies and the long-short portfolio, but it's very helpful to have that much interest income coming into the fund. And in addition, we have about 11% of the fund in South African real estate investment trusts. These are some of the highest yielding REITs in the world. They yield 8%. So add in the 8% from the real estate in South Africa. Also, we have our short book. So we're looking for compelling short ideas. These shorts can make money, and also if markets are difficult, it reduces the volatility of the fund. Finally, we have a really good risk management process. We work closely with Hedge Invest. They're very helpful, always analyzing the portfolio, always looking at how the portfolio reacts to different currency movements, commodities, interest rates, and trying to make the fund balanced so that reduce volatility and still make good returns. And I really got to thank Hedge Invest for all the help they've done to improve this. Okay, so we've had a lot of macro views today, you know, interest rates are going to go up or they're going to go down. There's going to be inflation, maybe not inflation. So it's difficult, right? We try to think about how the portfolio could perform in 2 different scenarios. And the first scenario is the reflationary scenario. I'd say this is kind of a continuation of 2017. Markets, the economy is very strong. Interest rates are probably creeping up. So in this scenario, I think our positioning in mining and energy should continue to do well. Growth is strong. Commodity prices are probably going up. We have a pretty big position in Nigerian banks. Nigeria is quite sensitive to the oil price. I think Nigerian banks would do well. Again, the valuation here, 6 times earnings on these banks. So very, very good valuation to start with. In general, when the world's doing well, emerging markets are doing well. I think our portfolio in South Africa will continue to make money. And then again, you don't have to really think about it, but we're still going to be earning that 16% on the bonds. And then what if maybe growth is a little slower? Maybe we're overestimating things. Maybe it comes in a little slower. And maybe U.S. rates don't really go up, and maybe they just stay low. That would be a bit of a growth surprise, I think, to the market. So what things would happen to the Africa Fund? I think our real estate portfolio in South Africa, I think that does all right. It's quite defensive, very diversified across shopping centers, office buildings, warehouses, and you still get that 8% dividend. In Egypt, there's a big transformation story in Egypt. I think we have very attractive ideas in Egypt. I think they can work. Again, the valuations of these stocks in Egypt are like 6, 7 times. One of them is the telecom stock, trades at 7 times. Very high yields, 8 to 9%. Our short book, I think if there's a little bit of a negative surprise to growth, our short book will make money. And again, we keep making money on those bonds. The ideas are all bottom up. I mean, I analyze each stock, and I have to like the companies and the management, but it is sometimes helpful when I'm talking to you to kind of discuss themes. Egypt is a pretty big area where we've invested, and there's a lot of changes happening in Egypt. In 2016, they went through a crisis. The IMF came in and really suggested some big changes for the Egyptian economy. First of all, in regulations. They're making it easier to start a business in Egypt. They're making it easier to get business licenses. They're making it easier to declare bankruptcy, which sounds bad, but actually, you used to have to go to jail if you declare bankruptcy. So that doesn't happen anymore. Allows people to take risk. Also, there's big changes in infrastructure in Egypt. They widened the Suez Canal. They're adding 3 new train lines in Cairo. The IMF said, people need to be able to get to work. There's too much traffic. It takes too long. He said, okay, so we're building 3 new metro lines in Cairo. And they used to have power outages. They've, over the last 3 years, had a massive build out of new power in Egypt, so there are no more electricity shortages. So big changes. They're difficult and they take time, but it's happening. Another theme is banks in Africa. Interest rates in Africa are very high. You have government yields of over 15%, as we were discussing. So the banks are making a lot of money. They're taking in deposits, and they're investing in treasuries at 15%, and they're lending to the highest quality corporates in Africa. So a corporate loan might be 20%, and the risk is quite low. So, and again, valuations on these banks are 6 to 7 times earnings, so very attractive. I mentioned the South African REITs. These are some of the highest yielding real estate companies in the world. You get 8% yields, and the dividends have been growing at 4%, which is quite attractive. Vacancy rates are stable, and there's been a big change in South Africa. There's been a leadership change. There's new chairman of the ANC party, and business confidence in South Africa is really improving. Finally, mining and energy. We've had that since 2016. Record cash flows at these companies, but the management's been super careful about investing the money. They are being very careful. They're scared of the crash that happened in 15 and 16, and so they're returning a lot of money to shareholders. So we're getting really good dividends. Okay, I always like to do pictures. And I just did a big trip to Africa. I went to Egypt and Kenya. So I'm going to share some pictures of things I saw. I think it's fun. I visited a lot of real estate projects. Okay, it's very interesting. I'm very interested in real estate opportunities in Africa. These are some typical apartments in Cairo. They're completely awful. You see them everywhere. There are 100 million people in Egypt, and it's a very young population. Average age is under 30, okay? There's a lot of people in these apartments, a lot of young, growing families looking for new homes. And if you go out to the suburbs of Cairo, there's companies building new communities. These are modern homes safer. They're often gated with high-speed internet connection, better services. And so I've been looking at these types of companies. They're quite interesting. I mean, the title is this Cairo or is this California? It kind of reminded me of, I used to live in California. It kind of looks like it could be Los Angeles, but it's Western Cairo. You guys know I like trains. I talk about trains a lot. So I'm going to talk about the Kenyan train again. And I'm also want to tell you, I go to Africa all the time, and it's changing rapidly. You go there and you come back and things are happening. In 2013, this is a map of Eastern Africa. Just to give you background, there's 140 million people between Uganda, South Sudan, Ethiopia, and Kenya. That's a lot of people, right? And they all get when they trade with the world, everything comes in the port of Mombasa. It's kind of a small port, and there's just a road that goes up, very long road, goes to Uganda, goes up to Ethiopia. In 2013, the Kenyan government said, look, we want to change Kenya and make it the logistics transport hub for Eastern Africa. Let's make everything go through Kenya, and let's really take advantage of that. So they decided to build a brand new railroad in 2013. You know, you hear the news, okay, it's interesting, it's going to take forever. They hired a Chinese construction company. By 2015, the Chinese were building it. Came in very quickly, things were happening. And then this year, they completed the railroad. And I thought, you know, I'm going to Kenya. I had to go to Mombasa anyways because I had another company I was meeting. And I thought, wouldn't it be fun to go ride that railroad and just check it out? So it's a very cool railroad. It's also very affordable. A first-class ticket. So I'm sorry, Alessandra, I did go first class. But it only cost 25 euros for a ticket. I went to the station, and this is the front of the train, and it's constructed and it's ready to go. This is the train from Mombasa to Nairobi. It takes 5 years. And this is a selfie I took with the person from the train. It's very nice. So the train is done. This is a game changer. Massive new train transporting cargo and people from that port of Mombasa out into the rest of Africa. Here's another thing. Back in 2015, we do investor trips to Africa, where we like to take investors, people that are interested in Africa. We did a trip to Nairobi, and we visited an insurance company called Britam. And this insurance company was building a brand new office tower in Nairobi. It was going to be the biggest office tower in the city of Nairobi. And so we took a group picture. I don't know if you noticed, but Alessandra and Elisabetta were on that trip, and they were in the front row there. But now, I just went back to Nairobi. This office tower is complete, and it looks really nice. It's very sharp. It's called the Britam Tower in Nairobi. Super tall. You can see it from everywhere. So, wow, you go back, and I remember when we toured that. It was a construction site. Now it's done. That same trip, this isn't a very good picture. That's a shopping mall under construction. I don't know if you can tell. That's under construction by a Chinese construction company, because Chinese construction companies are very big in Africa. Now, recent trip, brand new mall. It looks quiet now, but on the weekends it's very busy. Okay, so I talked about the railroad, 2013. The Kenyans wanted to build a new railroad, become a logistics center for Africa, for Eastern Africa. The new project, this is their next idea, is called the Lapset Transport Corridor. And, sorry, it's hard to see. It goes from here, this town of Lamu, connecting up into Ethiopia, South Sudan, and create a new transport corridor for the rest of Africa. So this is a big project. It's a $20 billion project. It involves building a new port in Lamu. Lamu is very remote. There are no people there. It's the wilderness. So I thought, wow, this is very interesting. This could be a game changer. But is it really happening? I kind of wanted to find out. So I went to Lamu, and I hired a boat. Actually, didn't hire it. That's all right. I got it for free. And I went to Lamu, and I took an hour boat ride to go see if this port was actually happening. So it's not a great picture as well, but actually the first stage of the port is almost complete. And again, Chinese construction company building it, but we drove around in the boat, and I took pictures of the different parts of the port. And again, this is another picture of the port. But just to say, big changes are happening. That railroad is very important. It reduces the cost. If you make something in Uganda, but you want to sell it to China, it's very difficult if it has to go on a truck for 20 days. If it can go on a train and you can get it down to 5 days, it's much cheaper. It helps Africa grow. Same with this port. It's not talk, it's happening. So that's what I just want to say. So I think there's big things happening. And just finally, here's the guys that took me out on the boat. And this is Captain Abu in the center, and this is Sam on the left, and that's me on the right. But that's it, folks. Thanks very much. And I just wanted to